If you are a part of the vast majority of people living on this planet, chances are you have probably watched the news. And what does the news typically start with? Politics and the law. But what's so captivating about big old books and people screaming at each other, aka the law, that somehow it managed to take up the most room on mass media platforms? Because in order to do so, it must be important and receive a massive amount of attention from the public. But why and how? Hello everyone, my name is Cho and welcome to my podcast. I am a student in Vietnam who is passionate about the law. So yes, I guess you could say that I'm into big old books and people screaming at each other, but I guarantee there is so much more to law than just that. Like, for example, did you know that the law is actually hiding somewhere in Spotify's terms and conditions? You know, the wordy article that you had to skip past to listen to this podcast? I bet you didn't read it. But anyways, I wanted to come on here to discuss the law with you guys. We are going to discover a wide range of topics related to the law, but you might as well could learn more about sociology, history, or philosophy along with the law itself. But obviously, I can't spoil it all in the first episode. You may see that what you're listening to right now is labeled as a podcast, but I don't want this to be just me rambling and you guys listening. I want this to be an open discussion. So if anything, please keep your thinking cap on at all times and be open-minded yet critical. You might agree or disagree with me, and also feel free to leave any constructive criticisms or any questions or concerns so that we could both improve. But also be nice about it. You don't have to go to law school and, become a lawyer or a judge after this, but I sure hope that this podcast will encourage you to stay curious about the world that we live in, and particularly its legal aspects. But without any further ado, let us embark on our first journey together by exploring what the law means and learning about legal rights and responsibilities. If I were to present you with an ice cream cone and a rotten egg and say that you can only have one, which one would you pick? I'll actually give you a few seconds for this. So 3, 2, 1. Now I'm guessing that perhaps you would pick the ice cream cone over the rotten egg because it tastes better for one and could save you from a trip to the bathroom, obviously. In other words, the ice cream brings you joy while the rotten egg doesn't. In moral philosophy, we call this way of thinking utilitarianism. Human beings like you and I are psychologically programmed to want to maximize pleasure and minimize displeasure. But the thing is that utilitarianism does not only just stop at ice cream cones and rotten eggs. It is also one of the most widely common principles that helps us to run a large group of people interacting with one another, a society for short, especially a civil and modern one. I could guarantee you that almost every person ever to walk the earth would prefer equality, fairness, and happiness over injustice, suffering, and sorrow. But unfortunately, the past has proven that not all chapters in human history were sunshine and rainbows, but instead they were filled with unfairness, sorrow, and bigotry towards the marginalized. Hence, in order to restore and retain utilitarian good for all, the law is a set of compulsory societal rules created by the government. It tells us what we can and cannot do, which I get that might put some of you off since it gives the impression of being fussy. But without the law, we would probably not live comfortably and securely today. Some laws are so significant that they end up being recognized and accepted internationally. Because of the law, we as citizens of a country are allowed to live equally, to be safe, to be free to some extent, or to not be exploited and have our lives taken away from us, just to name a few. Vice versa, in a lawless world, mayhem and chaos would be seen as the norm. In fact, I would not be making this podcast right now, and you would not be here listening to me because we would be fearing for our lives with criminals on the loose. So, in simple terms, the law is a set of compulsory rules created by the government, or also known as the state, and its fundamental purpose in modern society is to maximize ethicality and minimize corruption for all of us. Now that we know for sure that the utilitarianism ethos plays an important role in shaping and retaining the law in most countries' modern societies, you might be wondering, how does the legal system ensure that we are equal to one another? Does the government just give everyone the same haircut, force everyone to go on the same diet, or live the same lives? I mean, one could argue that that is equality at an absolute level, right? And to that, my answer would be yes. That is equality by definition, but at a huge cost. In monoculturalism, which is what I had just described, there would be a lack of cultural and socio-economic diversity, which in turn does not foster market competition and thus slows down a society's overall development. Therefore, a more, I'd say well-rounded and utilitarian alternative methods to reach that same goal of equality across all citizens of a country is by establishing legal rights and responsibilities. Seems a bit macroscopic, doesn't it? But as it turns out, you could actually understand the concept of legal rights and responsibilities using something small and dainty that is quite near you. I would like you to take a look at your chessboard and consider it to be a mini society. You see, every citizen, you and I, are granted a set of rights, which indicates what we are legally allowed to do. Think of your chess characters as your rights within the society. You are allowed to use your characters to your liking as long as you play by the rules. However, most of the time, rights go hand in hand with responsibilities. Your responsibilities determine what you must do. For example, you are allowed to use your bishop as long as you only move diagonally. In a legal context, this is similar to us children having the right to access compulsory education. But in turn, we must be polite and pay attention in class, for example. But here's the fun part, is that nobody goes through life playing the same rules. Just like how it is merely impossible to rely solely on one character in order to win a chess match. If you take a look around you, you will find that you are your parents' son or daughter, your teacher's student, and a citizen of a country, all at the same time. And for whatever role that you play, the law lays out special rights and regulations for you to follow. In fact, Shakespeare, a renowned English playwright, poet, and actor, once said, "All the world's a stage, and all the men and women are merely players." Just like how you could switch from using a queen to using a knight and play by their respective features, your legal rights and responsibilities change as you navigate the world through socialization. Remember the classroom example from earlier? Well, in relation to the teacher, you have the right to receive education and the duty to do your homework. But once you step outside of school and into a bubble tea shop, you are now a customer in relation to the shop owner. In this context, you have the right to purchase a cup of bubble tea and the responsibility to pay the shop owner some money corresponding with the quality and quantity of the beverage which you have just purchased. And because of the law's compulsory nature, if you fail to complete your legal responsibilities or strip someone else's rights off of them, you could be held accountable, but that's a topic for another time. So, there you go. Rights are our entitlement to do or own something, and responsibilities are